Alex arrived at Wimbledon carrying far more than a tennis racket and a travel bag. She arrived with momentum, confidence, and the unshakable belief that she belonged among the sport's biggest names. The young Filipino sensation had already turned heads throughout the season, climbing the rankings and proving that her breakthrough was no fluke. Every match she played seemed to add another chapter to her growing story. And now the grand stage of Wimbledon awaited her. Walking through the iconic grounds, Alex looked focused and determined, knowing that millions of fans were watching her journey unfold. The challenges ahead would be tougher than ever, but so would her resolve. After months of hard work, sacrifices, and unforgettable victories, she was ready to test herself against the world's best on the most prestigious grass courts in tennis. For Alex, Wimbledon was more than just another tournament. It was an opportunity to show the tennis world that her rise was only beginning. 5 Wimbledon singles championships. A career that transcended statistics, records, and trophies. Venus Williams was not simply a player who dominated women's tennis. She transformed it. She redefined what the sport could look like, who it could belong to, and what future generations of women could dream of achieving. Long before many of today's stars ever stepped onto a professional court, Venus was fighting battles that extended far beyond the baseline. She pushed for equal prize money at Grand Slams and helped change the sport forever. She carried the burden of being a pioneer, competed through some of the toughest eras in tennis history, and built a legacy that stretches far beyond rankings and championship titles. Her impact cannot be measured by numbers alone. She changed the game itself. And remarkably, she is still here. Still competing. Still inspiring. Still walking onto professional courts at 46 years old, reminding the world why her name remains one of the most respected in tennis. And on a special night in Bad Homburg, Germany, that legendary journey crossed paths with one of the sport's brightest rising stars. For the very first time in their careers, Venus Williams and Alex shared the court as doubles partners. It was a moment that felt bigger than a single match, a meeting between tennis history and tennis's future. On one side stood a global icon whose legacy is already secure. On the other stood Alex, a young star determined to create a legacy of her own. Together, they formed a partnership that immediately captured the attention of fans around the world. The pair delivered a winning performance, defeating Catherine Harrison of the United States and Alexandra Osborne of Australia in the round of 16 of the WTA 500 Bad Homburg Open doubles draw. The final score was 6-3, 6-4. The match lasted just 1 hour and 10 minutes, securing their place in the quarterfinals. But the scoreline only tells a small part of the story. What unfolded on court was far more meaningful than a straightforward victory. It was a glimpse of experience and youth working side by side, of a tennis legend guiding the flow of the match while Alex matched her energy with confidence, composure, and fearless shot-making. From the very first game, there was a noticeable chemistry between them. They communicated well, moved in sync, and played with the kind of trust that made it hard to believe this was their first match together. Every point seemed to carry a sense of occasion as fans watched one of the greatest champions in tennis history share the stage with one of the game's most exciting young talents. What made the victory even more impressive was how naturally Alex and Venus seemed to fit together on the court. Watching them play, you would have thought they had been doubles partners for years. But in reality, this was their first time sharing the same side of the net in a competitive match. And in doubles tennis, that is far from a guarantee of success. Doubles is one of the most instinct-driven disciplines in the sport. It requires trust, chemistry, and split-second decision-making. Players must be able to read each other's intentions without saying a word. They need to know when their partner will attack the net, when to cover open space, when to stay aggressive, and when to fall back into a defensive position. Even talented players often look uncomfortable during their first match together. The timing can be off, the communication uncertain, and the movements hesitant. But none of that seemed to apply to Alex and Venus. If there was any adjustment period at all, it lasted only a few minutes. Within what felt like the opening blink of the match, they looked completely at ease. Their movement was synchronized, their positioning sharp, and their confidence unmistakable. The chemistry between them was immediate, almost surprising given their complete lack of experience as a team. That comfort translated directly onto the scoreboard. Alex and Venus stormed out to a commanding 4-0 lead in the opening set, winning 4 consecutive games before Harrison and Osborne could finally get on the board. From the very first point, they played with purpose and intensity. Alex brought her trademark energy and fearless shot-making, while Venus provided the calm authority and court awareness that only decades of experience can deliver. Together, they formed a partnership that constantly kept their opponents under pressure. Every movement looked coordinated. Every point appeared carefully constructed. There was no hesitation, no confusion, and no sign that this was a newly formed doubles team. They attacked opportunities aggressively, dominated exchanges at the net, and consistently forced Harrison and Osborne into uncomfortable positions. Whenever one player moved forward, the other instinctively covered the open court. It was the kind of understanding that many doubles teams spend months trying to develop. By the time the first set ended 6-3, the scoreline actually flattered their opponents. Alex and Venus had controlled the majority of the action from start to finish. They dictated rallies, won key points with confidence, and established themselves as the clear aggressors on the court. Harrison and Osborne were constantly being pushed onto the defensive, forced to react rather than create. From the opening exchange to the final point of the set, it felt as though Alex and Venus were operating a step ahead, playing with the confidence and chemistry of a partnership that had been building for years, rather than one that had just begun. Then came the second set, and suddenly, the entire atmosphere of the match changed. The comfortable control that Alex and Venus had enjoyed in the opening set began to disappear. Catherine Harrison and Alexandra Osborne had no intention of fading away quietly. They did not travel to Bad Homburg simply to admire the star power across the net. They came to compete. And in the second set, they raised their level dramatically. Their shots carried more depth. Their returns became more aggressive. They started reading the patterns that had given Alex and Venus so much success earlier in the match. The errors that had been absent in the first set began to appear. Momentum was shifting. When Harrison and Osborne secured a break of serve and moved ahead 3-2, the energy inside the stadium changed instantly. For the first time all evening, Alex and Venus were facing real adversity together. The crowd, which had spent much of the match celebrating the exciting new partnership, grew noticeably quieter. Everyone could sense that the contest was no longer heading toward a straightforward finish. And this is often the moment that reveals the true character of a doubles team. When pressure arrives, uncertainty can quickly follow. Partnerships that look comfortable while leading can suddenly become tense. When momentum swings against them, communication can break down. Confidence can disappear. Players begin searching for reassurance from their partner instead of focusing on the next point. For a newly formed team playing together for the first time, those challenges can be even greater. But Alex and Venus refused to let that happen. There was no panic, no frustration, no negative body language. Instead, they responded exactly like experienced champions. They reset, refocused, and immediately fought their way back into the match. One strong game led to another. Their energy returned, their movement sharpened, and the confidence that had defined the first set started to reappear. Then came the breakthrough they needed, a crucial break of serve that swung momentum back in their favor and gave them a 4-3 lead. The crowd responded instantly. The noise returned. The excitement returned. It felt like Alex and Venus were taking control of the evening. But Harrison and Osborne were not finished yet. To their credit, they answered right back. Refusing to surrender, they broke serve once more to level the set at 4-4. Suddenly, every point carried extra weight. Every rally felt significant. The second set had transformed into a genuine battle. Gone was the one-sided feeling of the opening set. This was now a contest between two determined teams fighting for every inch of the court and every opportunity to gain an advantage. You could feel the tension building with each game. The crowd sensed it. The players sensed it. What had started as a showcase of a new partnership had evolved into a test of composure, resilience, and mental strength. The match was alive. The pressure was rising. And the next few games would determine whether Alex and Venus could finish what they had started, or whether Harrison and Osborne could force the contest into an entirely new chapter. When the pressure reached its highest point, it was Alex and Venus who won the fight. With the second set tied in a tense battle, they held firm in the ninth game, refusing to give their opponents another opening. Then came the moment everyone in the stadium had been waiting for. Venus Williams walked to the baseline with a 5-4 lead and the opportunity to serve out the match. The ball was in her hand. The match was on her racket. The crowd watched in anticipation. There was no hesitation, no nerves, no uncertainty. Just the calm confidence of a champion who has spent decades thriving in moments exactly like this. Venus stepped up and closed the door, serving out the match to secure a 6-4 second set victory and send the new partnership into the quarterfinals. Within minutes, the WTA shared the winning moment across social media with the perfect caption, "Cue the twirl." And honestly, no words could have described the atmosphere better. Because what made this performance special was not just the result, it was the energy. Alex and Venus were not treating the match like a routine warm-up event before Wimbledon. They were not simply going through the motions. They were smiling, competing, celebrating, and enjoying every single moment. There was joy in their tennis. There was life in their partnership. Every fist pump, every laugh between points, every successful exchange at the net showed two players genuinely enjoying the experience of sharing the court together. For Alex, the moment carried even deeper meaning. At just 21 years old, Alex has often spoken about the players who inspired her growing up. And Venus Williams has always been among them. Venus was one of the icons Alex watched as a young girl, dreaming about a future in professional tennis. She was one of the athletes who helped make those dreams feel possible. Long before Alex was competing on the biggest stages in the world, she was watching legends like Venus redefine what women in tennis could achieve. Think about that for a moment. One of Alex's childhood heroes was now standing beside her as a teammate. The player she once admired from afar was now sharing the same side of the net, celebrating the same points, fighting for the same victory, and raising her fist after the same winning shots. For most young tennis players, that kind of moment remains a dream. For Alex, it became reality. And the timing of it all makes the story even more remarkable. Just days earlier, Alex had made history by becoming the first Filipino player ever to earn a Grand Slam seeding. Her career was already reaching new heights. And now she found herself sharing a winning partnership with one of the greatest champions the sport has ever known. But this doubles victory becomes even more impressive when you consider everything that happened earlier in the week. This match did not take place in a vacuum. Before teaming up with Venus, Alex suffered a disappointing defeat in the singles draw at Bad Homburg. Belgium's Elise Mertens, the world number 26, defeated her in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3. Mertens played the cleaner match, served brilliantly, and never allowed Alex to establish her rhythm. It was a difficult loss, especially considering the circumstances Alex was carrying into the tournament. Only days earlier, she had completed one of the most memorable weeks of her career in Berlin. Entering as a wild card, she stunned the tennis world by reaching the semi-finals and defeating both the world number 2 and the world number 8 in the same event. It was an emotionally draining run that demanded everything she had physically and mentally. Many players would have accepted the singles loss, packed up, and focused entirely on Wimbledon. Alex chose a different path. She came back. She returned to the court. She adjusted to a completely different format. She teamed up with Venus Williams and competed with the same energy and determination that had carried her through Berlin. Instead of dwelling on disappointment, she created a new opportunity. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, she focused on what came next. And that may be the clearest sign yet of how much Alex has grown as a player in 2026. The story is no longer just about rankings. It is no longer just about headline victories over top 10 opponents. It is about resilience. It is about maturity. It is about the ability to absorb a difficult loss, reset mentally, and immediately find a way to win again. Same tournament. Same week. Almost no time to recover emotionally. Yet Alex stepped back onto the court, embraced a completely different challenge, and walked away with a victory alongside one of the greatest legends tennis has ever produced. That is the kind of growth that cannot be measured by rankings alone. That is the mindset of a player who is learning how to survive, adapt, and keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles appear in front of her. Now the challenge becomes even bigger. With their opening victory secured, Alex and Venus move into the quarterfinals, where they are set to face the tournament's second seeds, Tereza Mihalikova of Slovakia and Olivia Nichols of Great Britain. Unlike the newly formed partnership of Alex and Venus, Mihalikova and Nichols are established doubles specialists who have built their reputations on consistency, chemistry, and experience. Both players sit among the world's top doubles competitors, and they showed exactly why in their opening round performance. Their first-round victory was as convincing as it was efficient. They dispatched their opponents 6-2, 6-3, controlling the match from start to finish and looking every bit like the second seeds in the draw. There were no wasted opportunities, no dramatic momentum swings, and very few signs of vulnerability. It was the kind of performance that sends a message to the rest of the field. For Alex and Venus, this represents a genuine step up in competition. This is not simply another doubles match. This is the kind of test that reveals whether a promising partnership can become something more. Mihalikova and Nichols possess the experience, structure, and doubles instincts that only come from competing together at the very highest level. The quarterfinal awaits. And the story is far from over.